So here are 9 books on AI to read in 2023. Let's have a look. So the first book on the list is Rebooting AI by Gary Marcus and Ernest Davis. Gary Marcus has been a critical voice in the deep learning community for many years, and his points and discussions are actually quite good for the field. And in this book, they touch on the frustration of many people that are ignored by practitioners in the field of AI. This book has an interesting timing as well. It was released in 2019, just before the large language models disrupted the field. GPT-2 was also released in 2019. They have a whole chapter on language comprehension, and it reads quite interesting in this context. They argue that the current approach to AI is fundamentally on the wrong path to get us to safe, smart, and reliable AI. Hence the name Rebooting AI. They name 3 problems to overcome. First, the gullibility gap, which names the problem that we humans tend to overly attribute human terms to machines, like the machine thinks, the machine does, and so on, which causes problems down the line in the interaction between humans and machines. And second, the illusionary progress gap, which points out the problem that we often mistake progress on easy problems for progress on hard problems. And third, the robustness gap, which is the problem that AI is often not as robust as we wish it to be and often fails catastrophically unexpectedly. But Marcus and Davis not just point out the problems of AI, but also explain how we can improve on current AI technology. The new approach to AI should also incorporate an understanding of the world and common sense, and focus on trust and safety. So Rebooting AI is a worthwhile read if this sounds interesting to you. It's not afraid to offer critique, and it's an important voice to be heard. Okay, the next book on the list is 1,000 Brains by Jeff Hawkins. You might know Jeff Hawkins from his quite famous book on intelligence. And in his new book, he describes the theory called the 1,000 Brains theory, same as the book. The main insight is that there are no hierarchies in the brain, and instead there are 1,000 equally operating brains, and intelligence is a consequence of their working together. Like his last book, it's a fascinating read, especially for those people in machine learning who are looking for new ideas to solve some of the problems of AI. For example, those described by Marcus and Davis. The book consists of 3 parts, and in the first part he explains the neuroscience behind his theory. And this basically states that there are 1,000 brains, and each of these mini brains is a cortical column, which is a part of the neocortex that's very responsive to particularly sensory inputs. And a continuous perception is a result of this majority voting. And he argues that if you experience a visual illusion, that this is the result of large portions of the neocortex disagreeing. The second part explains how this all ties to machine learning and how the same principles could also generate general intelligence in a machine, which is very interesting for the engineers who want to build a machine like this. And the third part is a little bit weaker, to be honest, and in this part he explores some philosophical concepts like how AGI will change the world, and that he's not worried too much about AGI risk. But still, it's a worthwhile read. Hawkins is a very good writer and very committed to his idea. And like his first book, it really changes how you view the mind, how you view intelligence, and especially for those who have less understanding of neuroscience, this is a fascinating read. Okay, next book. It's Natural General Intelligence by Christopher Summerfield. Summerfield is a professor of neuroscience at Oxford and also affiliated with Google DeepMind for 10 years or so. In his book, he argues that there's no right way to build AI if we don't specify what we want the AI to do in the first place. Summerfield is discussing the properties of intelligent systems from multiple perspectives: AI, cognitive science, neuroscience, and psychology. And he's tying all of this together in this book. It's a cleverly written book, and it has a ton of new and rare ideas in it. It reads more like an academic book, but it's very approachable still and doesn't require any prior knowledge in any of these fields. This book is for you if you're interested in the neuroscience of intelligence or want some new ideas for AI, or just want to be amazed for 300 pages. I would like to read some sentence from the beginning of the book which summarizes this quite well. So he says, biology provides us with a reassuring existence proofs for thinking machines. But I will argue it does more than that. It gives us a sense of the set of problems that intelligent systems evolved to solve, and a rough guide to the solution concepts that nature has devised. I will argue that we can think of natural intelligence as a blueprint for AI. So this is Natural General Intelligence by Chris Summerfield. The next one may come as a surprise because it's not a book about AI. It's Introduction to Quantum Computing by Wang. You might ask yourself, why should I read a book on quantum computing if I want to learn about AI? Quantum computing is one of these topics that is discussed controversially, but I'm sure it will find its place, and it might also become very relevant for AI in the future. And this book offers great information, skipping the hype and just focusing on the essential parts to get you started with experimenting in quantum computing, and you could even try quantum machine learning, although this is not part of the book. Compared to other books on the list, it's more of the textbook kind, but it's still very entertaining to read, and it's also very approachable. So it doesn't require any advanced math. With just some basic understanding of linear algebra, you should be fine. With this in mind, he skips some of the more theoretical parts, like there's nothing about quantum physics in there, and he takes some of these as an assumption. He phrased it very interesting in the beginning of the book, and I'd like to read it to you because I like it so much. He says, so one important element of learning is to believe. To be successful in reading this book, I want you to believe what I say. I'm not a cult leader, I only need you to believe me when you're reading this book. I hope you can challenge and question me once you have finished the book. To avoid being brainwashed and to retain your curiosity, I would like you to note down everything that you cannot accept easily. The document may start like this. Today I started learning quantum computing. The following is a list of concepts and methodologies I don't really understand. The book might be incomplete, inaccurate, or even wrong. For now I use them as tools, but I need to use them very carefully. So that's a very nice attitude. I think we can use more of this when reading any book. So thank you for this one, Wang. I really liked it. Okay, on to the next one. So, a correlation does not imply causation. We've all learned this, we've all internalized it. But then how do we work with causation? So that question is the motivation behind Judea Pearl's work on causation. And the Book of Why is a true masterpiece. In this book, he explains how to work with causation and how to turn the tables on statistics. It combines a technical introduction to causality as well as some practical examples where causation made a difference. He's also exploring the history of statistics and how the axiom correlation does not imply causation left us with a science void of causation, which is a true problem because we humans use causation all the time. So if you work with statistics in any form, it's a must read. It will make you ask questions that you have not asked before, and you will end up wanting to learn more. So this is one of my favorite books. You should really check it out. I highly recommend it if you have not done so. The Book of Why by Judea Pearl. On to the next one. It's How to Stay Smart in a Smart World by Gert Gigerenzer. Gigerenzer made statistical literacy, and especially teaching people statistical literacy, his mission. You can read about this in Reckoning with Risk or his book Risk Savvy. And of course in this book, where he applies the same ideas to AI systems and modern computer systems that use statistics. And statistical literacy is the key skill to keep the upper hand if you're using AI systems, but also if you're building an AI system. It's a bit a combination of the work by Judea Pearl and the work by Daniel Kahneman, combining mathematics and psychology to show us when our reasoning fails and when our statistical intuition is just wrong. So if you're working with AI systems, building them, And even if you're seasoned statisticians, I bet you can learn something from this book. Okay, the next one. What Makes Us Smart by Sam Gershman. Sam Gershman is professor of psychology at Harvard University, and this, like the Summerfield book, is a book from the cognitive science perspective and focuses on the human cognition mainly. This is one of my favorite books on human intelligence for a long time. And Sam Gershman asks a question, why are we so incredibly smart and stupid at the same time? And the underlying assumption is that humans have specific biases or failures that replicate quite well across humans. And this is kind of like the dumb part, and smart is obviously because we have like a general intelligence. And the interesting point in this book is that he argues that under specific assumptions, our decision-making process is optimal, and that our failures are just the trade-offs of these optimizations. So there's a great book if you want to learn more from the cognitive science perspective, and Sam Gershman also is talking regularly about AI, so this ties in very nicely. Okay, 2 more to go. We have Human Compatible by Stuart Russell. So Stuart Russell is a professor of computer science and wrote a quite famous book on AI called Artificial Intelligence, a Modern Approach, together with Peter Norvig, which is in the 4th edition, I think, at the moment. So in this book, he asks the serious questions: what happens if we succeed with AI? What happens if we build machines that are more powerful than humans? And he argues it is the biggest event in human history, but maybe also our last. If you're familiar with the topic of AGI safety, you probably know the book by Nick Bostrom, Superintelligence. Compared to Bostrom's books, Bostrom is a philosopher. This is a more book from a technical perspective. And I like that Stuart Russell found a sober voice in this heated debate. He offers a good argumentation, picks up on many arguments of the Bostrom book, but also develops an approach to safe AI that we can practically use to build AI systems today. It's good if you're new to this topic of AGI safety, but also if you're interested in this topic, you probably know this book already, and if you haven't read it, you should give it a read. It's, I think, a voice that should be heard in this topic. The last one is a fiction book called Clara and the Sun. So this is a wonderful book on self-determination, cause and effect, and decisions you take for yourself and others. So it tells the story of Clara, who is a humanoid robot and is designed to be an artificial friend. From her place in the store, Clara can see the street, and she observes it very carefully and trying to make sense of it all. So I really enjoyed reading this book, so I think it's a great pick if you want to read it on your summer vacation and want some break from this more technical books here. This book is for you if you want to explore what it's like to be a friendly robot that learns to love, learns to make decisions, and builds relationships with humans. So these are my picks for AI books to read this year, maybe over the summer. Really interesting to hear from you. If you notice books, if you like them, if you have other recommendations, please share them in the comments. These are more like popular science books, and I'm interested if you want to get a list for textbooks on AI that teach you how to use this technology. Happy to do this. I got a lot of books like this as well, so just let me know. Okay, until then, I see you next time.